Greetings, and thank you for tuning in to my latest video. As it always is, my name is Gordon Causey, and on my YouTube station, I focus in on on current news and events. And with an election going on in my home and native land of Canada, uh, the the election that we're facing on April 28th is top of mind. And today we just got hit. When I say today, actually, it was on Monday, March 31st. This video is going out on Tuesday, April 1st. The news came out on Monday, March 31st, about something mind blowing. And that is that a Liberal candidate for the riding of I believe it's called Markham Stouffville, uh, an individual by the name of Paul Chiang, was advocating that a conservative candidate for the riding, I believe, of Don Valley North, a gentleman by the name of Joe Tay, that he be kidnapped and handed over to Chinese authorities of the Chinese consulate to face extradition to China for crimes of promoting democracy, for holding up the virtues of free speech and democratic rule in his ancestral homeland, I guess, of China, of Hong Kong. Yes, Joe Tay is an advocate for traditional Canadian values of democracy, free speech, the rule of law, and they don't like that in Beijing. And so the police in Hong Kong have issued an arrest warrant for Joe Tay, a Canadian citizen running for Canada's parliament. They put out a bounty on him, a bounty of roughly 184,000 Canadian dollars. And Paul Chang, a Liberal candidate and sitting MP, advocated back in January at a Chinese language press conference that individuals should seek to kidnap Joe Tay and hand him over to Chinese authorities. Can you believe that in a country, in our native Canada? And worse than that, even worse than that, is the fact that Mark Carney, who's acting as in the role of prime minister of this country, completely unelected, is standing by Paul Chang. He's standing by this individual. I'm going to share the news story as it's being reported by none other than CBC News. I could have shared this, the reporting coming out of Rebel News or Western Standard or Post Millennial or True North or any number of what people tend to call alternative news outlets. However, this story is so big that even the CBC itself, which I often refer to as Canada's version of the old Soviet TASS news agency, even the CBC could not ignore this story. So let me share the article, and I will have the link in the description to this video down below so you can share it around as best you're able. I know Canadians, thanks to Justin Trudeau and his Mark Carney advised government, Canadians are not allowed to share news articles on social media platforms like Facebook. We're not allowed to share these articles. And you have to wonder why. Here's the article, and I'll make sure that it's sharing. It is. So you can see right there, it says RCMP probing comments from Liberal Paul Chiang about Chinese bounty placed on Conservative. Carney defends Chang as Conservative candidate Joe Tay says he fears for his safety. Imagine having a foreign nation as powerful as China wanting to have you kidnapped and extradited to their country, a country famous for human rights abuses. And this article came out Monday, March 31st at 9:33 a.m. Eastern Time and was last updated a couple hours back. The RCMP is reviewing whether a Toronto area Liberal candidate broke the law by suggesting people turn in a Conservative now running in a nearby riding to the Chinese consulate and collect a bounty Foreign actor interference, including instances of transnational repression, continues to be a pervasive threat in Canada, said Mountie spokesperson Christine Kelly in a statement to CBC News on Monday night. Quote, the RCMP is looking into the matter. However, no specific details can be provided at this time. I, for one, am hopeful that this individual, this Paul Chang, is charged. That's advocating criminal behavior. In my non-expert legal, I do not have a legal degree, so it's a non-expert opinion, but to my mind, when an individual is advocating that someone be kidnapped, seized, and taken against their will to the consulate of a foreign nation, a nation famous for human rights abuses, that if it's not criminal, it should be. The RCMP's involvement adds pressure on Liberal leader Mark Carney, who's facing calls to drop Paul Chang as the party's candidate in Markham Unionville. I'm sorry, I said Markham Stouffville. It's Markham Unionville. Now, you would think that Mark Carney would be faced with the easiest decision in political history. We have one of our candidates who's advocating that a Canadian citizen be kidnapped and taken to a foreign nation's consulate for a bounty. Obviously, you drop that candidate, but not Mark Carney. Carney called the comments deeply offensive at a campaign stop in Vaughan, Ontario, early Monday, but said Chang will remain a candidate. What kind of value system does that send to the Canadian voting public? That an individual, Paul Chang, sitting member of parliament, can advocate criminal activity and still remain a candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada. Give me a break. And then this is even more gobsmackingly mind-blowing. Carney said, I view this as a teachable moment. Paul Chang, I checked, born in 1960, that puts him around 64 years of age. He served for 28 years on the for the Toronto Metropolitan Police Force. And if someone at 64 years of age, after a 28-year career in law enforcement, does not know that you do not advocate to have a Canadian citizen kidnapped and handed over to a foreign consulate, to the Chinese consulate, China, a country famous for human rights abuses, if he needs to be taught that, it's a little late in the game, Mark Carney. And the article goes on to say the controversy dates back to January when Chang, the incumbent MP, told a Chinese language media news conference that people could cash in if they turned Zhou Tay over to the Chinese consulate in Toronto. Well, obviously, in order to do that, you would have to kidnap the man because he's not going to willingly go. And, you would have to kidnap him. That's the only way you're going to get him there, but you could cash in. Goes on to say there's a $184,000 roughly Canadian bounty on his head. We have a prime minister in this country, unelected, simply appointed a caretaker, placeholder prime minister who has no business being prime minister of this country, especially after this heinous behavior. In December, Hong Kong police issued a bounty and arrest warrant for Tay. Remember, Hong Kong used to be a British colony up until I think it was 1999, 2000, and because they had a lease from the Chinese on that island nation or on that island territory. But I think it was January 1, 2000, the people of Hong Kong were swallowed up by China. And the arrest warrant, it's $1 million in their money, about 184,000 Canadians. And it's not just on Che, it's also on other China democracy advocates. There are people, part of what I'll call the Chinese diaspora, Chinese individuals who have left China and are living in other countries who are advocating from countries like Canada for the rule of law, for democratic values, for freedom of speech, something that China does not. They are not a bastion of Western liberal democratic values, obviously. It's a Marxist, communistic dictatorship. It goes on to say that Tay, and again, this is the conservative that Chiang wanted kidnapped. He was advocating kidnap the man, hand him over, get 184,000. Tay is a co-founder of Canada-based NGO, non-government organization, Hong Konger Station, and runs a YouTube channel that promotes democracy and free speech. And Paul Chiang was advocated that someone who advocates for democracy and free speech be rounded up and handed over to the Chinese consulate. And the warrants are largely seen as a way for authorities in Beijing, in China, to target vocal critics abroad. At the time, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly denounced the bounties. We need to do more than to denounce it. We need to take action. We are in a trade war with China. They have imposed 100% tariffs on Canadian agricultural products like canola oil. That is threatening to devastate Western farmers. Likewise, there are tariffs they're placing on Canadian seafood products, which are going to decimate our fisheries industry. Everyone's fixating down on the US, but meanwhile, China is far more concerning and should be far more concerning than Canadians. Carney called the comments a lapse in judgment and defended Chiang as a veteran police officer with more than a quarter century of service to his community. Service to community or service to himself. He was a sergeant. He was in charge of quotas. He was in charge of ensuring that there were enough LGBTQ XLMNLP officers in uniform and enough members of this community and that community, this DEI stuff that we're hearing so much about. That was his job. How much time did he spend driving around in a patrol car or walking a beat? No, when he was a sergeant with the Toronto Police Services, his job was to ensure, well, do we have enough of this group? Do we have enough of this group? I'm an advocate for the most highly qualified candidate, irrespective of gay, straight, I don't care. Are you the most qualified? Are you the most capable person for this position? Full stop. Hay, again, this is the individual who was targeted by Chiang, has spoken out calling the comments insidious and saying he now fears for his safety. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want an arrest warrant issued for me and guys like this Chiang advocating that people kidnap me and send me to China. And Tay went on to say that they are intended to send a chilling signal to the entire community in order to force compliance to Beijing's political goals. And Mark Carney seems to be playing ball with Beijing. Mark Carney is China first, Canada second. Actually, China first, US second, Canada third. Because you must remember, he was chairman of the board at Brookfield Asset Management when their board of directors advised shareholders to approve a move of the head office of Brookfield from Toronto down to New York City. And you can find it online. There's a letter out there. Paul Carney signed it, urging shareholders to vote in favor what he was recommending. Let's move these high-paying Canadian jobs. Let's move them to New York City. He is not Canada first. Tay said even before Chiang's comments, he had been in touch with the RCMP about personal protection. I cannot blame him. Suggesting that people collect a bounty from the Chinese Communist Party to deliver a political opponent to the Chinese consulate is disgusting and must never be condoned. Mark Carney's condoning it. Oh, it's a teachable moment. Give me a break. It goes on to say that Chiang issued an apology saying his comments were deplorable. Carney faced multiple questions from reporters about Chiang during his Monday morning housing announcement. He said Chiang has apologized directly to Tay. And then Carney's going on to say that he will continue with his candidacy going forward, having made those apologies very clearly to the individual, to the community, and moving forward to serve. No, no, certain crimes are just too heinous. A simple apology is not enough. There has to be consequences. You do not advocate criminal activity. You do not advocate that an individual be kidnapped and forcibly taken to a foreign nation's consulate to be extradited. No. And Kay went on to say, I want to be clear, no apology is sufficient. The article goes on. Gloria Fung, head of the community group called Canada Hong Kong Link, said she was absolutely appalled by Carney's response. Any reasonable thinking Canadian will be appalled. He has sent out the wrong message to Canadians that his party is not serious about the threat of transnational repression and election interference from a hostile foreign state player on Canadian soil. It will also be sending a green light to foreign state players that they can continue with high yield, low cost transnational repression and foreign interference without any consequence. I can't believe what I heard this morning. Fung's group is one of 40 diaspora organizations calling on Carney to revoke Chiang's candidacy. 40 Chinese organizations who oppose Beijing and their repression of democracy, repression of free speech, human rights abuses. There are 40 groups, and they're all calling on Carney to cancel Chiang's candidacy, to remove him as a candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada, for Mark Carney to stand up and say that the Liberal Party of Canada stands against this type of thing. No, just say you're sorry and everything's fine. We've been through that with Trudeau. Trudeau apologized for, oh, I'm sorry, I interfered in a criminal proceeding. Remember that. Justin Trudeau, his corporate buddies at SNC-Lavalin were undergoing a criminal. Jody Wilson-Raybould, the Attorney General for Canada, was pursuing legal action against SNC-Lavalin for the bribing of foreign government officials. And Justin Trudeau tried to strong-arm Jody Wilson-Raybould into giving them what amounts to a plea bargain. It's called a deferred prosecutorial agreement, meaning pay a fine, no admission of guilt, and everything gets whitewashed. And Jody Wilson-Raybould had the integrity to say no. She did not bow to the pressure that was put on her by the Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau types who like to twist your arm. And so Justin Trudeau fired her for having integrity. There are so many ethical lapses. I don't want to go through them all in this video. And Mark Carney hasn't even been elected to anything yet, and he's already shown his lack of ethics to Canadians countless times over now, lying to Canadians about the decision to move high-paying Canadians' jobs to New York City. He tried to pretend that that decision was made after he left. No, the decision was made while he was chairman of the board. That was when the letter went out to shareholders asking them to approve what Mark Carney and his board of directors had put forward, closing down the Toronto head office and moving it to Donald Trump's playground in New York City. Another diaspora group, Hong Kong Watch, wrote to the RCMP Monday calling for an investigation into Chiang's conduct. In an open letter to Commissioner Mike Duem, the group suggested Chiang's comments might fit the criminal code definition of counseling to commit the indictable offense of kidnapping. No kidding. You think this Joe Tay was going to just drive up to his house and we're going to take you to the Chinese consulate and we're going to collect $184,000 and you're going to be extradited to China? Oh, sure, I'll go along. No, he was advising, he was counseling them. He was counseling during when he spoke to this press conference, Chinese media. He was advocating that someone go out or individuals go out and kidnap Joe Tay. The group also pointed to a provision of a foreign interference bill which makes it an offense to intimidate or threaten a person for the benefit of an association with a foreign entity. It is without question that Mr. Chang's comments are an attempt to intimidate Mr. Tay and his supporters and to silence him during an election, wrote Ed Simpson, interim director of Hong Kong Watch. It is without question that there are implicit threats of violence and a legitimate reward in the form of a bounty. In response to the letter, the RCMP spokesperson said the force takes reports and allegations of transnational repression seriously and has dedicated resources for investigating criminal activity related to foreign interference in Canada's democratic processes. Goes on to say, to ensure the integrity of our investigations, the RCMP typically does not disclose information relating to investigations unless criminal charges are laid, rendering it a matter of public record. And hopefully we will find out that charges are going to be laid against this man. Mark Carney will be forced, even though he doesn't want to, even though he's beholden to China, even because he doesn't want to offend his Chinese masters, he would be forced if his liberal MP and candidate was under criminal investigation. It will be very hard for him to maintain his support of this individual, no matter how much he wants to. Earlier Monday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said the comments go beyond being inappropriate or an off-color joke. Joe Tay is extremely afraid. He's afraid for his life, Poilievre said during a stop in St. John, New Brunswick. These comments by this Liberal candidate may well rise to the level of criminal because they called for someone to be turned over to a hostile foreign government on a bounty, a government that wants to kill this Canadian citizen. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said Chang's comments would be disturbing for many Canadians who have fled repressive regimes and still live in fear. As the Foreign Interference Inquiry heard, Beijing is known to harass and intimidate members of the Chinese diaspora to assert control and suppress dissident views. For Mark Carney to say, I'm going to accept his candidate, really sends a message that that kind of commentary ultimately is acceptable. I'm going to agree with Jagmeet Singh for a change. Ultimately saying that for the folks out there who are afraid, the folks living with constant fear, you know what? You're less important to me. What's more important to me is my party. And I would add in what's more important to Mark Carney is his relationship with the Chinese. Remember that when he was with Brookfield, he had an investment vehicle, a green fund that borrowed $250 plus million, $250 million from China. Mark Carney is very much beholden to the Chinese. He is not Canada First. A spokesman for the security and intelligence threats to election sites. Sorry, I'll read that again. A spokesman for the security and intelligence threats to elections, site task force, the body set up to monitor foreign interference during elections and leadership contests, said the comments don't fall under its mandate. SITE is made up of the RCMP, the Communications Security Establishment, Canadian Securities Intelligence Services, CSIS, and Global Affairs Canada. Anyway, I'll stop reading the article there. I'll unshare my screen. Get rid of that. There we go. Took away the green share. I thank everyone for watching. I've gone on for almost half an hour, and I don't want this to go on too long. But goodness, come on, Liberal Party supporters. I get it. Okay. You know, I know that there are individuals in this country who are proud of the fact that they've never voted for any other party but the Liberal Party. Well, if you've never voted for a party other than the Liberals after seeing this, and I'm going to, oh, I don't like to swear on my station. I don't like to engage in profanity, but Mark Carney is turning this election into a certain type of show, an excrement show. That's what he's turning our political system into. He gets elected by Liberal Party members, gets to sit in the Prime Minister's office, jumps on a wide body jet, flies off to France, flies off to England, goes and has meet and greets, photo opportunities, does nothing tangible. Those were simply designed to keep him at the top of the news feed. Carney is an empty vessel. He's not stupid, but he's also not very politically astute. He's never been in the political arena before in his life, and it is showing. It is showing. He is showing his true cards. He is showing who owns him, and Beijing owns him. In an election where he's talking about elbows up and Canada first, yeah, he likes his elbows up. He likes to rub elbows with Ghislaine Maxwell. Look that up. He likes to send high-paying Canadian jobs from Toronto to New York. Look that up. Brookfield borrows 250 plus million, $250 million while he's in charge from China. You think he has Canada's interests first? He sets up his investment vehicles down in Bermuda to avoid paying Canadian taxes. He games the system. Same way Donald Trump famously during the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton said, you're avoiding paying American taxes. And Trump said, that's because I'm smart. Why are you setting up these investment arms down in Bermuda, Mark Carney? Because I'm smart. This is a smart guy. He's like Donald Trump. He knows how to game the system. Is this the guy we want as Prime Minister of Canada? There are at least 4 or 5 other choices. We have the Liberals, send them into the toilet. And you got numerous other choices. Conservative, NDP, Green, if you're in Quebec, Bloc Québécois. You got the PPC. You got 4 or 5 other choices, Canadians. We do not have to vote in Liberal candidates who are beholden to China, because ultimately there is so much power centralized in the Prime Minister's office that all the MPs are there to do is just bang a table. We do not want Mark Carney as the Prime Minister of this country. Let's make him the shortest serving ever Prime Minister of Canada. Leave your comments down below. Even if you're a Liberal supporter, hey, let's go at it. No issue. Defend Mark Carney. I want to hear some Liberals try and defend Mark Carney and what he's done, and in supporting this Paul Chiang, who advocates for a Canadian citizen to be kidnapped and handed over to a foreign nation. I want to hear some defense of this for Mark Carney's decision. I'd love to see someone try and defend this type of horrible, heinous, and dare I say, criminal type leadership of this country. I want to see it. If you like my video, you're welcome to like, you're welcome to share, you're welcome to subscribe. I am trying to build the channel. I try and get as much content out there as I can. I'm a busy guy. I work. I was in the Army until 2021. I decided I wasn't going to get the vaccine, and so I left the Army. And since 2022, I've been working in the retail environment. 58 years old, kind of the poster child for cancel culture. Old white male, Christian, straight. No, you're not allowed to inject your voice into the public discourse. Well, YouTube gives me an outlet to put my thoughts, my views, and opinions out there, and I'm taking advantage of it. And if you like what I have to say, if you think I have something reasonably coherent to contribute to the public discourse, I welcome you to, sign on, hit the subscription button. That helps build my exposure. The more subscribers, the more likes, the more comments videos get, the broader their reach. So I'll leave you there, and I'll be doing a live and interactive video sometime later this week. I haven't decided what night yet. So God bless, and we'll talk to you all later. Good night now.